What is good, everyone? Welcome to this video. I'm Charlie from Conscious Creation, and in this video I would like to share with you that of the 7 Hermetic Principles. These Hermetic Principles come from the most wisest of beings, that of Thoth the Atlantean. He was known by the ancient Greeks as Hermes, and he was also the author of the Emerald Tablets. These 7 Hermetic Principles are universal. They are found in all religions, and they are the basis for the entire field of Hermetic philosophy. They also come from the Kybalion, which is the study of ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. With our reality, we think we are run by human laws. We're not. We are run by universal laws, and understanding these universal laws at a deeper level can really help us to start to create the things in our life that we would prefer to experience. So I'm going to share with you these principles and also share a practical way of how you can use them in your life. Let's start with the first Hermetic principle, the principle of mentalism. All is mind. The universe is mental. A mental state always precedes a physical reality. So in other words, if we have positive thoughts and we plant positive thoughts within the garden, they will grow and they will flourish. This is something that I really started to understand when I studied a lot of Neville Goddard's work. And he was this very well-known manifestation teacher. And he talks about the power of our imagination and how it is strongly linked to our physical reality, in the same way that our arm is connected to our body. But to understand this mentalism, we need to talk a little bit about the basis of how this actually works. So we think of things outside of us as outside of us and solid, but it's not. What we are doing is we are actually projecting our mental state onto the world, and what we perceive as solid is actually vibrating energy. And it's through this mental projection that energy will respond to us, and it fires the synapses in our brain and the electrical signals, and that's what we call reality. So it's basically the lens or the filter in which we see the world, how we perceive things. And the way that we perceive things is through things like our identity, how we view ourselves, our belief systems, our conditioning, and how we perceive things through these states determines on how we feel about things. The second Hermetic principle is the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, as without, so within. As above, so below. If we look at a star that is splitting, it is very similar to a cell that is splitting. If we look at a helix nebula, it is very similar to a human eye. As within, as without. How we feel within ourselves affects things outside of us. This is the law or the principle of correspondence. Have you ever found that you wake up and you're in this negative mood, you walk outside and it suddenly starts to rain?
Oh, great! Tulio, look on the positive side. These things can't get...
Excuse me, were you going to say worse?
No.
No. You sure?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
I've revised that whole thing.
Yeah.
Or you have this perception that everyone outside of you is a bad person, or they're out to get you, and this proves to be correct to you. It's because it's just reflecting your internal state. It is corresponding to how you feel within yourself. And it also aligns with that of the law of attraction, which is basically bringing things into your life. But it does it in a delay. So what I mean by a delay, I talk about this in my video, the mirror principle, that when you change your internal state, it reflects outside of you, but it takes time until you start to see the effect. And one of the reasons I believe this happens this way, because when I studied a lot of Dolores Cannon's work, she was a quantum healing hypnosis therapist. So basically, she would put her clients in a very deep level of trance, and she did thousands of clients and writ lots of books over her lifetime. and all of the answers come from her clients and not her. And she always used to get these deep and meaningful questions that were given to her. And one of the main conclusions that she got from these many clients is that the earth is a school for souls. We come here to learn things as souls. And one of the main things that we come here to learn is how to manipulate energy in order to create our reality. So if things happened instantaneously, we wouldn't have much of a chance to learn. So if things outside of us are not going the way that we want to, what we can do using this principle of correspondence is go within ourselves and start to change how we feel within ourselves. And we have this power. And when we start to do this with the delay effect, things outside of us start to change. The third Hermetic principle is the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. If you look at the genius that was Nikola Tesla, he used to say, if you wish to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Coming back to that of the principle of mentalism, how I said that things outside of us aren't static and how they are always moving. This is vibration. Everything in your life, the people, your circumstances, your location where you live, your surroundings, the career that you have, this is all to do with vibrational resonance. Have you ever had that feeling of going to a certain place and it feels really good? It feels really homely. It feels nice because it's a vibrational resonance to you. Or have you ever had the experience of meeting someone and they seem perfectly nice, but you feel this dissonance, you don't feel this quite connectedness? That's because it's not a vibrational match. We always attract things similar to our vibration. If you are feeling good, if you are in a high vibrational state, you are going to attract more positive thoughts. If you are not feeling good and you are in a low vibrational state, you are going to attract similar thoughts. When it comes to attracting things in our lives, what many people do is they really focus on changing their thoughts a lot of the time. And this can work, but it usually requires a lot of effort. What we can do is we can learn to change our vibration, change how we are feeling. And when we start to feel better, we will naturally attract more positive thoughts. This is something that I realized because on my phone, I've got these different playlists for music. I've got one for working out. I've got one for meditation. I've got a high vibe playlist. And depending on how I'm feeling that day, I will be attracted to certain music. You will find that you will get attracted to certain songs on how you are actually feeling. And it's not to do with the five senses, it's all to do with an internal state of feeling of how you are drawn to people, situations, and things in your life. The fourth principle is the principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. We live in a polarized universe. Good, bad, wrong, right, up, down, hot, and cold. They are all the same thing, but different in degree. This is what the principle of polarity means. If we have light and if we have dark, along my experience, I have found my greatest wisdom or my greatest truth has come from my darkest experiences or moments. But if we want to become the best us that we can become, is we need to learn to integrate both the dark and the light. If you look at a battery, it works best because it has a positive and because it has a negative. Some people focus purely on the light, the love, the bliss, the joy. Some people focus purely on the dark, but it's those who integrate both within themselves that they start to have this better perspective and they are able to become the best version of themselves. If you look at the work of a very well-known psychotherapist known as Carl P. Jung, one of the main conclusions at the end of his life was that we have this innate system, built-in system in our subconscious mind that helps us seek oneness and truth, even if it is traumatic to our conscious mind. So in other words, if there's darkness within ourselves that we haven't acknowledged or accepted or seen, our subconscious mind will bring in circumstances and situations that bring that up to the surface, because it's in that darkness that we can start to see the light and we can start to integrate both.
But you know, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times, if one only remembers to turn on the light.
If we look at spirit and we look at matter, they are the same thing, just vibrating in different speeds. If we have water and we freeze it, it becomes ice. If we heat the ice, it becomes gas. It's the same thing, but different in degree. If we have lead and convert that to gold, that's alchemy. If we have hate, we alchemize that to love.
My shoulder angel.
Don't listen to that guy. He's trying to lead you down the path of righteousness.
If we have our lower nature, our primal nature, and convert that to our divine nature, that is alchemy. If we look at things like that of ascension, that is converting from our physical body to that of our light body. And for me, I remember at the beginning of my spiritual journey, I started to do a lot of research on ascension. And what I thought was actually going to happen to me is either I was going to be beamed up by a spaceship or I was going to disappear and reappear in a new dimension. But what I came to realize is that true ascension is actually sinking deeper and deeper into our physical body. It's seeing those parts of ourselves that we maybe haven't accepted and that we still need to see. So if we have emotions that we have been taught are unacceptable, is we neglect them. But we need to go within ourselves and we need to feel everything that our physical body has to show us. And if we do that, we are integrating both the dark and the light, and it helps us to become the best version of ourselves. The fifth principle is the principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. If you understand the principle of rhythm, things like the law of attraction will work much better for you. So coming back to the principle of polarity, the positive and the negative, the principle of rhythm is the pendulum swing between the two, the here and there, the day and night. Seasons, we have winter, we have summer. It is the pendulum swing between the two. You may have days or weeks where you feel amazing, and then you may have days or weeks where you feel crap and you have no idea why. There is no reason for this. It's all to do with the principle of rhythm. I have found in my life that I used to suffer much more when I fought this principle of rhythm. So in other words, when I was feeling low or feeling a little bit depressed or things weren't working out for me or I was failing at something, is I would judge it as bad. We need to understand that this principle, things go good for us and then things may not go good for us. If things aren't working out for you now, it doesn't mean that it won't work out for you in the future. So to honor this principle, we must honor the ebb and flow of the pendulum swing. So in other words, in practical ways, when you are feeling amazing, when you are feeling high, use it, milk it, build your business, do what you enjoy doing. Do the sort of stuff that makes you feel good, and you are going to get more out of it. When the pendulum swing comes back and you're not feeling so great, it doesn't mean that you can't do those things anymore, but you might not get the most out of it. But you can learn to not push yourself or try and make things happen when you are feeling low. It's learning when to step back and when to step forward. And this is one of the keys to that of self-mastery. The sixth principle is the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for laws not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. There are no accidents. You reap what you sow. Every cause has an effect. The problem with this is most people are at the will of things like their desires, their moods, their emotions, their victim thoughts, their subconscious programming. It's learning to be the gatekeeper of our mind and reacting on how we react to things in our life. So much of this is learning to put one foot in front of the other towards the things that you want to create in your life. It's really that simple. If you want to be a better writer, you need to write more. If you want to be a better dancer, you need to dance more. If I want to learn how to speak better, I have to speak more. But as we go through this process, that doing things on a regular basis, if you are working something on a consistent basis, you are going to get results from it. This is the cause and effect. But it's also important to realize that when we come across obstacles on this journey towards our desires and the things that we want to create in our life, it's important on how we react to those things as well. Reacting in different ways to circumstances is also going to have an effect. That is the cause and effect. The seventh and final Hermetic principle is the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. Gender is in all things, not just sex, but the creative nature of our reality. If we look at masculine energy, that is more assertive, it's more progression, it's more conquest. It's about building things in your life. Feminine energy is a bit different. Feminine energy is more receptive, it's more sacred, it's more treasured, it's more nurturing and nourishing. And the true spiritual journey is actually learning to balance both the masculine and the feminine within ourselves. If we have too much masculine without the balance of the feminine, I'll give you an example of this. Let's say you have started something and it starts to build and build and build, and this power behind it starts to grow, but you end up losing the very reason why you started it in the first place. We live primarily in a masculine driven reality, and you see people when they start to get to a level of power is they forget the very reason why they started to do something in the first place. If we have too much feminine energy without the balance of the masculine, we become so grounded in the present moment that we become victim to external circumstances and the cycles of life. So it's learning how to balance out this present feminine and the future-driven masculine. If we want better relationships in our life, or we want to live in a more harmonious environment, it's learning how to balance both the masculine and the feminine within ourselves. I'll also give you an example when it comes to things like manifesting. Now, before I came across my spiritual journey, or I got into things like that of manifesting, is I was purely in the masculine in terms of trying to create things. I would just push. Whenever I came up against an obstacle, I would just try and push harder. But when I came across manifesting and started my spiritual journey, is I started to incorporate more of the feminine without the balance of the masculine. So what I would do is I would sit in meditation and I would visualize what I wanted in my life, and I would wait until it came into my life. But I started to realize when it comes to things like manifesting, having the balance of both the feminine and the masculine, that's when things started to work much better or much more in my favor. So for example, I would meditate, I would visualize, I would be receptive to what the universe was trying to guide me to, but I would also take action. I would move towards the things that I wanted to create in my life. And I also noticed when I did this through that of the masculine, the universe would also help me with more of the feminine. So it was using both the masculine and feminine that the results were much better for me. So these are the 7 Hermetic principles in a very brief overview, and I hope they gave you some understanding of how you can apply them in your own life. Peace, much love, and take care.